Number 8. Bismarck Espinoza Martinez. In November of 2018, Florida woman Carla Stefaniak was visiting Costa Rica to celebrate her 36th birthday. The day before she was due to return on the 27th, she disappeared from the Airbnb where she'd been staying in Escazú. She'd messaged friends that it was pretty sketchy at her resort, as there was heavy rain and no power, adding that she might ask a security guard to get her a water bottle. Stefaniak's friends and family raised the alarm after they'd lost contact with the woman, who'd typically share the events of her holiday with them and on social media. Police dogs later found her body several hundred feet from the Villa Lemas complex, half naked, wrapped in plastic and partially buried. She'd died from stab wounds and blunt force trauma to the head. 32-year-old security guard Bismarck Espinoza Martinez was arrested after he'd contradicted himself in the statements given to the police. He'd claimed to have last seen Stefaniak at around 5 a.m. when he'd allegedly helped her load her luggage into a taxi, heading for the airport. It was an odd report, particularly since Stefaniak's flight was in the afternoon. Investigators concluded that Martinez had used his position to enter Stefaniak's room, where he tried to abuse her and then killed her when she fought back. The security guard, reported as an illegal immigrant from Nicaragua, then moved the body to a different area and buried it. Martinez was ultimately sentenced to 16 years in prison and ordered to pay Stefaniak's family over $50,000. The victim's relatives were outraged by this decision, as they wanted a maximum sentence of 50 years. Number 7. Incident at Manchester Victoria Station. In October of 2016, a factory worker was caught smoking at Manchester Victoria Station in England and was chased by 4 security guards for an estimated 9 minutes. Harrowing body cam footage would show the guards restraining and pinning 27-year-old Jack Barnes to the ground. Pressure was applied to his neck, and Barnes said that he couldn't breathe a total of 7 times. One of the security guards was recorded uttering, "I'll tell you what, I'll just put him out." Barnes suffered a cardiac arrest, and the restraint continued for a few minutes before anyone checked his condition. He was taken to a hospital but never regained consciousness and was pronounced dead several weeks later. The evidence was initially considered insufficient for manslaughter charges, but a coroner would subsequently rule his killing unlawful, prompting the launch of another inquest. It was argued that Paul Fogarty, Brian Gartside, Matthew Sellers, and Stephen Rowlands had used excessive and unreasonable force in restraining Barnes. They never expressed any remorse for their actions, in spite of the fact that a walk-away policy was in place, and they were never allowed to chase down Barnes in the first place. Synthetic cannabinoids were found in the victim's system but weren't believed to have contributed to his death, as it was mainly attributed to the violence he'd experienced at the hands of the guards. Number 6. Stephen Michael Duxbury. In October of 2015, a security guard at an apartment complex in Orlando, Florida, was arrested for the first-degree murder and assault of a resident. 27-year-old Sasha Samsudin had returned to her Uptown Place home following a night of drinking with friends. CCTV cameras captured her at around 1:45 a.m. in the company of 33-year-old Stephen Michael Duxbury, the building's only security guard. According to police documents, the footage showed her bumping into walls, apparently intoxicated. The following day, officers performed a welfare check after Samsudin's worried friends had failed to reach her. The police found her lifeless body curled up in a blanket on her bed. The young woman had been strangled to death. Her blouse was ripped apart and there was a condom wrapper nearby. Her underwear and purse were missing. In the aftermath, Duxbury was questioned by the police but said he'd never been to her apartment and had merely tried to help Samsudin find her keys. He gave the officers a story about a mystery man whom he'd allegedly seen pursuing her, but the evidence against him began to pile up. The day after Samsudin's body was found, he had bite marks and fresh injuries on his forearms. The police picked up Duxbury's fingerprint from the toilet seat in Samsudin's bathroom, and footprints on the floor of the crime scene matched shoes recovered from his home. Duxbury's phone records showed searches about ways of getting around the keypad lock model on her apartment door. It became evident that instead of protecting Samsudin, as was his job, Duxbury had broken into her home, abused, and then killed her. It took a jury just 4 hours to find him guilty, and he was sentenced to life in prison. Number 5. Franz Arestil. In August of 2021, an NYU security guard was charged with attempted murder after attacking his supervisor with a machete-like weapon. 38-year-old Franz Arestil and his victim, who was only identified as a 48-year-old man, were arguing about the mandatory screening process in effect at the university. The Daily Screener is a set of questions on a smartphone app which needed to be completed in order to be allowed access to NYU buildings. It was only available to vaccinated people or those with proof of a negative COVID-19 test. Arestil had to be sent home earlier in the week after refusing to undergo the screening process. Following the argument, which occurred on July the 24th at around 1 a.m., Arestil repeatedly struck the victim with the large knife. Surveillance footage showed him running for his life out of the Broome Street Residence Hall, with Arestil in pursuit. At the time, there were no students present. The victim survived but required extensive surgery after being left with a collapsed lung and several broken ribs. Arestil, a past recipient of NYU's Service Award for his 15 years as a public safety employee, was released on bail pending his next court appearance. Number 4. Robert Paval. In February of 2020, a woman was killed at Timberland's headquarters in Stratham, New Hampshire. The attacker was identified as 20-year-old security guard Robert Paval. In the aftermath, he was charged with both first-degree and second-degree murder in the death of marketing director Catherine Hepner, aged 46. The first charge stemmed from Paval stabbing Hepner, either before, during, or after abusing her, and the second-degree charge was for him recklessly causing her death while manifesting extreme indifference to the value of human life. Paval pled not guilty and was held without bail. A lawsuit that Hepner's husband subsequently initiated against Securitas, the security guard's employer, claimed that he'd been hired negligently and that there'd been clear red flags which weren't addressed. They included Paval using marijuana and psychedelic drugs at work, as well as him allegedly suffering mental breakdowns that went unreported by his supervisor. Securitas denied responsibility, but the case is ongoing. Number 3. Clive Carter. In November of 2012, in a horrific fit of rage, security guard Clive Carter beat a medical conference delegate to death with a fire extinguisher. Thai woman Kanakporn Satchawat was meant to attend an HIV drug therapy conference at Glasgow's Clyde Auditorium over a 5-day period. She was booked at the Marriott and had previously written on Facebook how excited she was to visit Scotland. 35-year-old Carter was working security at the conference. Satchawat had reportedly complained about repeatedly being asked to show him a conference ID pass. This enraged Carter, who by his own account heard the words "die, just die" in his head while arguing with Satchawat. The 6'5" security guard followed the pharmaceutical manager, who weighed less than 100 pounds, into the women's bathroom. It was there that he repeatedly struck her with a fire extinguisher so hard that every bone on the left side of her face and neck was broken and her skull was shattered to pieces. 2 French doctors would later find Satchawat unresponsive, lying in a pool of her own blood. After the attack, Carter hid his blood-stained blazer and cleaned the fire extinguisher. He then went to the staff room and calmly ate the sandwiches he'd bought for lunch. Following his arrest, Carter claimed he had no memory of the events after their argument and that, as a borderline personality disorder sufferer, he wasn't responsible for his actions. It was later revealed that he'd harbored an obsession for fire extinguishers and even had a photo of one on his computer. 8 days before killing Satchawat, he was working security at a Holiday Inn Express on Stockwell Street. Stephanie O'Brien, aged 24, was staying with 3 friends at the hotel. Carter knocked on their door with the fire extinguisher, claiming he was there to put out a fire. O'Brien fortunately managed to close and lock the door on him. For the brutal killing of Satchawat, Carter was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 20 years served. Today's topic was requested by Prangon G Loves Pokemon. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Christopher Emmons. In June of 2018, on the south side of Chicago, a liquor store security guard fatally injured a suspected shoplifter. While reviewing surveillance footage, 57-year-old Christopher Emmons noticed a man stealing a bottle from the store He would later be identified as 33-year-old Herbert Lemon. The next time that he visited the store, Emmons put on a pair of gloves and locked the door. As Lemon approached the counter with a beer bottle, Emmons punched him in the face twice without warning. The security cameras, which also had audio capabilities, recorded no verbal exchange between the men. Emmons dragged Lemon outside of the camera's view and continued to beat him. He then helped him to his feet, only to strike him a few more times. When officers arrived at the scene, Lemon claimed that he didn't want to press charges. A few hours later, his girlfriend found him unresponsive at his home. He was rushed to the hospital with brain hemorrhage and underwent emergency surgery. After the operation, doctors observed no sign of brain activity and Lemon was pulled off life support. The ruling of the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office was homicide from the multiple blows to the head that he'd sustained. Emmons was charged with murder. It wasn't the first charge of its kind that he'd faced. Prior to being hired as a security guard, he'd spent 23 years in prison for murder, and his record also featured convictions for unlawful use of a weapon as well as arson. Number 1. Steve Bouquet. From October of 2018 to June of 2019, shopping center security guard Steve Bouquet stabbed at least 16 pet cats in the seaside resort city of Brighton, England. The affected owners were left heartbroken upon finding their beloved pets bleeding in the street. Bouquet, an ex-Navy gunner in his early 50s, killed 9 of the felines and maimed 7 others during his campaign of cruelty, although it's believed he may have been responsible for many other attacks. The police spent months searching for the faceless and nameless killer who terrorized Brighton residents, leaving them fearful for the safety of their pets. The break in the case came from footage captured by a CCTV camera, which a homeowner had set up to monitor the alleyway outside his house. The footage showed Bouquet stopping to pet Hendrix, a 9-month-old black kitten belonging to the homeowner. Bouquet pulled something from his rucksack and made sudden jerks forward, causing Hendrix to flee. The pet later died from his injuries. After the police arrested the security guard, they tied him to other crimes based on cell phone location data. Additionally, photos of the cats were found on his phone and feline DNA was discovered on the blade of a knife in his home. In court, Bouquet claimed that he wasn't a threat to animals, as owners expressed the pain they'd felt from losing their pets or seeing them suffer. No reason was provided for what one prosecutor dubbed an unusual and extremely traumatic offense. Bouquet, dubbed the Brighton Cat Killer, was sentenced to over 5 years in jail. Thanks for watching. For a month, would you rather work as a security guard in the most dangerous neighborhood of your city or leave your front door unlocked? Let us know in the comments section below.